It's special. Looking back from since I was a little boy, this is what I've dreamed of. I've always told people that I wanted to be an NFL player, and they always asked me what my backup plan was, and I didn't have one. I figured that was the only way out of my neighborhood, and so this is not just for this win isn't just for me. It's for the whole city of Houston, the whole team, the whole fan base, and people back home in Gainesville, Georgia.
That's got to make you feel good. Of course, not the most dramatic of wins, but plenty to unpack from the Texans' 13-9 win over Cincinnati and some highlights from Deshaun Watson. Welcome to SI Now. It's Friday. Thank God. I'm Maggie. That's Robin. Jenny Vrentis is here from the mmqb.com to help us talk about this game. And it is Friday, so let's look on the bright side of things. Deshaun Watson, our adrenaline performer. It is presented by Toyota. Let's go places. Watson's highlight included that 49-yard touchdown run. Overall, though, Jenny, what is Watson going to have to do better now that he is a starter in this league?
I think the big thing you saw on Thursday night was he had happy feet a lot of times, and it's certainly understandable behind that Texans offensive line, and in many ways his mobility is a huge asset to sort of overcoming some of the protection issues they have. But there were definitely times you would have liked to see him settle down in the pocket, keep his eyes looking for options downfield to throw the ball, not tuck the ball and run so fast. So I think a lot of quarterbacks coming out of college-style offenses, that's a challenge they have adjusting. But I think, for him, definitely, you saw that last night. That's something that he's going to have to work on with Bill O'Brien.
It hasn't been a good start to the season for the Bengals. I think that's fair to say. If you had to pick one to lose their job first, who would it be, Marvin Lewis or Andy Dalton?
Well, I think it's unlikely the Bengals make a coaching change during the season. Marvin Lewis has been there for a long time. He's the second longest tenured coach in the NFL behind Bill Belichick. So I think if I had to pick between the two, I'd say Dalton. They could go to McCarron. They kept A.J. McCarron. They certainly had trade interest in him this offseason. They did keep him. But there's bigger issues, right? The quarterback change might not necessarily do that much. We've got huge protection issues. They've probably got some scheme issues they need to address on offense. But yeah, I could see a quarterback change happening before a coach change for sure.
That's really interesting. A.J. Green, after the game, I thought had some very illuminating comments. Of course, he's very frustrated, but let's take a listen to what Green had to say.
Like this is up and down, man. But we gotta find a way to get our playmakers the ball, man. That's it. This is a superstar-driven league, man. We're not gonna win without them.
Okay, Green was targeted 8 times by Dalton. That was the most of any Bengals receiver, but it didn't come at some of the most crucial parts of the game. I mean, Jenny, does A.J. Green have a point there? Do they need to be going to him even more?
I think him speaking up is significant because he's not a guy that we hear gripe a lot, So I think his words saying that frustration carries a lot of weight. Just 2 years ago, Andy Dalton was in the MVP conversation. Then he injures his finger. He's out for the playoffs. He's never seemed the same since. But I think one big change was that Hugh Jackson is no longer his offensive coordinator. Hugh Jackson went to become the head coach of the Browns. I think he gave Andy Dalton a lot of confidence. He built a system around him. He stoked his confidence to make kind of throws that he's not making right now. And so when I think A.J. Green does have a point because the offense just looked so conservative last night. It was hard to tell the difference between an Andy Dalton offense and this offense run by a rookie quarterback, right? There didn't seem to be a lot of belief in him. So I think, there are things they can do to make Andy Dalton more confident, get the ball downfield to A.J. Green, because if he's catching the ball in triple coverage, as we saw last night, I mean, that's a great playmaker.
One thing about the running game, though, this was supposed to be, I think, a position of strength for the Bengals. They drafted Joe Mixon. That was controversial in itself. But it seems like if you're going to make the commitment and draft him, why not use him? He really hasn't seen the field in a lot of significant ways so far. Yeah, they've kind of had that timeshare in the backfield. And the Bengals have always kind of rotated the backs in and out. I think a lot of it starts with the offensive line. I mean, they lose Andrew Whitworth. They lose Zeitler in free agency, 2 of their best offensive linemen. And now the unit is one of the worst in the league. It affects pass protection and also affects the run game.
Bad offensive line play is a good enough segue to the Giants. Not talking about their offensive line, but Odell Beckham Jr. We know he can dance, but can he play? Will he suit up this week for them?
So it was interesting hearing him say to reporters yesterday that his injury was a 6 to 8 week injury. And it was interesting that he put that timeline out there because Monday night's game would be just 4 weeks. Now, I think he was close to playing in Dallas. He was a game time decision. They had him doing a warm-up, and then they decided after that. It looks like he has a pretty good shot to play. Certainly better shot than last week. Even if you put him out there only as a decoy. I mean, the Giants certainly had history with that. When Plexico Burress would not practice all week, and he'd go with this ankle injury in the game. I think the offensive coordinator of the Giants, Mike Sullivan, he was there back then. He referenced that a couple weeks ago, right? So there is precedent for kind of putting a guy out there who is a decoy who teams will have to roll coverage to, even if he's not fully himself. But look, the Giants offense without Odell Beckham, that was a bleak picture, and he probably made himself some money by being sidelined with an injury.
Although, I mean, that's a big risk to roll him out there if he's not fully healthy, right? Because what if he does get injured? Then you're going to have team not happy, player not happy, because he might not be able to cash in as quickly as he wants to.
And the Giants medical staff is very conservative, so they're not going to put him out there if he's going to risk further injury or really, hamper himself for the rest of the season. But then, yeah, I mean, sometimes it's kind of at that gray area. What do you do? It's a guy. There's a difference between, they say, injured and hurt, right? Like, when do you put him out there? When is he too injured to actually go out there, and when can he kind of just fight through it?
Okay, we'll have to keep an eye on that. That's Monday night's game. Meanwhile, the Saints will welcome the New England Patriots to town. Things not getting a lot easier for New Orleans. Adrian Peterson also illuminating comments that I didn't come here to carry the ball 9 times. I mean, Jenny, what do you think this is? Is this maybe where the Saints maybe painting the role that Peterson was going to play differently than what it is? Or should Peterson just come to grips with the fact that he is not going to be their number 1 or maybe even number 2 option offensively?
Yeah, I think it sort of speaks to the fact that Adrian Peterson didn't have a lot of options this offseason. So I think he went to the Saints. He wanted to sign somewhere before the draft, before teams started to draft running backs and fill in those holes. So he signed with the Saints right before that. But he didn't have a lot of places to go. And he's always been the bell cow. So this was always going to be an awkward transition. And especially on a team like the Saints, you sort of knew what you were going to get. Just look at how they've used the backs in the last year. It's a pass-first offense, and the backs get what they can here and there. I think the biggest change for these, I did a story in the preview issue about running backs kind of at their swan song, like guys like Emmitt Smith who went to play for the Cardinals, or Tony Dorsett who regrets his season with the Broncos. It's always kind of an awkward transition from being the guy to being a role player, or even if you go somewhere else and your production declines, it's never quite the same as the team where you made your name. And so I think Adrian Peterson's going through that awkward transition. Can he contribute more than 9 carries? I think so, but I don't think his role is going to be anywhere close to what it was, and he's going to have to learn how to adjust to that.
Jenny Vrentis from the mmqb.com. Really appreciate it, Jenny. Have fun at Monday night game.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Another team looking to bounce back, the Seattle Seahawks. They've got the 49ers. I had a chance to talk to wide receiver Doug Baldwin about that and the experience of his teammate, Michael Bennett. Joined now by Seattle Seahawks wide receiver Doug Baldwin, who joins us courtesy of Vizio. Now, Doug, we'll get to the Vizio big screens for big plays promotion in just a second. But fans watching the Seahawks this weekend, a little disappointed. Obviously, just one game. You've had many with this team. You guys have won a lot. What was your takeaway from week 1?
It was week 1. We got a lot of work to do. Fortunately enough, we played the Green Bay Packers early in the season, so we get that out of the way. But also in the course of it, we get to fix our mistakes, fix our issues. So we got a lot of season left, and I'm really anxious to get back to work.
Say you're a fan or maybe a sports media pundit who picked the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl. What would your message be to those people today?
It's business as usual. That's what the Seahawks do, right? We usually sputter out of the gate. If you look back when we won the Super Bowl, we had a very difficult time out of the gate, but we found our footing and eventually went to the playoffs, and the rest is history. So to anybody who's worried about it, don't panic. We're going to get our things corrected, and we'll be back out there soon.
Do you think the offensive line is a concern at all?
I wouldn't say concern. I don't know if concern is a great word to describe it. I think that there's some attention to detail that needs to be picked up there, and I think that we will do that. Again, like I said, we've been here before, so our guys are ready for the task, ready for the challenge, and we'll be all right.
Now, playing offense, you got a first-hand view of Aaron Rodgers. Of course, you've seen him quite a few times in Packers-Seahawks matchups throughout your career. Where would you rank Rodgers all-time right now?
Oh, all-time? That is a very long discussion to be had. I would say he's up there, definitely up there. The things that he does on the football field as a quarterback. It's artwork to watch. It really is. It's a beautiful thing. I would say he probably has one of the strongest arms I've ever seen. And if you take into consideration everything that he does, his running ability, his elusiveness, his accuracy, but then you throw in his arm strength, that's just a huge thing for a quarterback to have. You know, any receiver would love to have that asset. You know, and I'm very fortunate enough to have a guy who's very similar to him in that regard.
Now, last year you publicly asked for all state attorney generals to review policing policies. What was your reaction to what happened to your teammate Michael Bennett?
Sad, first and foremost, you know, and more so my priority and our team's priority, our focus was making sure that Michael was okay emotionally. You know, that was very important to us. Again, I've said this countless times now, if you've been in those situations where you feel like your life is in danger, those are traumatizing situations. And so really our focus, our priority was just making sure that Michael was emotionally okay.
Does it frustrate you that his account is nitpicked, or that the general conversation sometimes doesn't seem to move beyond the merits of the anthem protests themselves?
No, because it's to be expected. You know, I think that it doesn't get any more obvious. You know, we've dealt with this before. You know, last year when the message was, you know, getting lost in translation, it happens, and that's just human nature. So, you know, we understand that, and we'll continue to move forward through it.
Do you have a specific message you'd like to get across right now?
Empathy, you know, and I'm not just saying for Michael Bennett, I'm saying for everybody, you know, even for the police officers. I know that they have their side and their story. If you can put yourself in Michael Bennett's shoes, regardless if you believe who was right, who was wrong, your political views, your religious views, whatever it may be, if you're black, you're white, Asian, it doesn't matter. If you can just inject some empathy into the situation and realize that, you know, a man felt like his life was threatened, just think about that for a moment. A man's life was threatened. He feels like his life was threatened, you know. The emotional aspect to that, it's devastating, you know. And yes, there's some other stories, there's some other ends to it, and you can inject empathy in those as well, you know. I think about the police officers, you know, they're responding to a shooting, you know. I don't know if I don't have the courage to do that as a police officer, but, you know, we're all humans. We all make mistakes in all aspects of life. So, you know, if we can just inject empathy into the conversation, I think we'll become closer as a society.
Great advice. Now, on the topic of Colin Kaepernick, in the spring you had said you didn't think him not having a job had anything to do with ownership. In the summer you amended that a bit, saying that the owners were trying to send a message. What do you make of him still being jobless right now, Colin Kaepernick?
I don't know. I think there's a lot of things there that I don't have the information for. You know, obviously I do believe that there should be an opportunity for him in the NFL, you know, at least to get a workout, you know, for him to come into an organization and show what he's capable of doing at this point in his career, because he is a talented quarterback. So yeah, you know, I think I was a little bit more optimistic before this season started, thinking that, yeah, he'll have an opportunity to come into camp. But, you know, seeing the state of quarterback play around the league and his name not being called, you do question, you know, what is the true motive and agenda here.
Now on to Vizio. What's your favorite thing, before we get to the promotion, to watch on TV, non-football related?
Golden Girls. Have you ever seen Golden Girls?
I have.
Great show.
In syndication a bit. That wouldn't have been my first guess, though.
Of course not. You know, I'm a football player, but also I'm a human too. I got my likes and my dislikes. But yeah, if you're interested, you could watch Golden Girls on a M-Series SmartCast display from Vizio. All you have to do is go to vizio.com/bigplays. So any play this year of 40 yards or more that ends or results in a touchdown, Vizio is going to give a lucky fan a MCAS Series TV. So go to vizio.com/bigplays, enter for your chance to win.
Well, Doug, appreciate the time and enjoy your Golden Girls. I would name a specific Golden Girl, but I don't have it.
You don't have it, then you need to watch some shows.
All right, well, we'll get back up. I'll watch some, and we can have a discussion. That can be our next bit. But just to remind fans, they can enter for a chance to win a 50-inch M-Series SmartCast display at vizio.com/bigplays.
course, the news cycle may move on, but the destruction left in the wake of Hurricanes Harvey and Irma is a daily reality for so many. Dolphin safety Michael Thomas is a Houston native who has made his home in Miami since 2013 when he joined the team. He now joins us from California, where the Dolphins are set to take on the Chargers. And Michael, I just personally for you, how would you describe what the last 2 weeks have been like?
I mean, it's been crazy, especially seeing first everybody in my hometown, going through, Hurricane Harvey and, the effects of it. So it was, as devastating as it was to see everybody going through that, it was great to see, everybody throughout our nation, trying to help out, lend a helping hand. I asked the Florida community, just give whatever they can because, these people who had to stay there or either stuck in their homes or went to relief shelters, they came in there with just, the clothes on their back or whatever they could carry. So, I mean, to see the outpour of people just donating, clothes, water, diapers for babies, it was amazing. And what J.J. Watt was able to do using his voice and his platform to raise that money to help out, in those communities, I mean, it's amazing because, those people lost everything. And then, just last week, we dealt with Hurricane Irma. The people in Florida are still dealing with it. So, we're going to try to have our own relief fund down in Florida. And I mean, and for the islands, it's crazy what Mother Nature can do. But, you just can't take for granted every day you walk in this earth.
Players sometimes have to deal with distractions, but it's usually nothing of this magnitude. What has been the feeling like around the team?
I mean, we're ready to go. Obviously, like I said, we feel blessed. It doesn't matter wherever we're at, practice in California, play on Thursday, Wednesday, Friday, it don't matter. We just ready to go get the season started. But, once you think about what everybody else is going through, losing their homes, their cars, being displaced, having to live somewhere totally different. And you've got your family that you got to think about and, take care of, in perspective, we're playing a game, so if we can be some type of relief for those people where they can just turn on the TV, watch the game, and we can help out any type of way, that's fine. So for us now, we just, it doesn't matter for us where we practice and where we're playing. We're just ready to go.
I'm sure you're looking forward to the distraction as well a little bit getting onto the field, but I know that you have a serious family situation happening in Houston because your sister is unfortunately battling breast cancer. She needs daily radiation treatment. So has she been able to get the help that she needs?
Man, so, I mean, yeah, that was crazy that, obviously with Hurricane Harvey coming and her and my family had to, go to Dallas. For every day that they were gone, she wasn't able to get her treatments, but, they're back now, fortunately, and she's able to get those treatments. But, you think about all those cases. I mean, I think I saw images of people in nursing homes and, care homes and hospitals, they're trying to evacuate them. There's so many people that's affected that a lot of us don't even, think about it. And, got to take that in perspective. But yeah, personally for me, I'm glad my sister's able to get back. She's fighting her fight, fighting her battle against cancer, and she's strong. She's only a year and a half older than me. So again, it's not in the place for us to complain, about our situation right now, just because we have to travel in order to play. We're playing the game.
Well, we're certainly keeping your sister in our thoughts. Just some football stuff. Because of this and because of the hurricane in Florida, the Dolphins don't have a bye week this season. Does this make a good case?
16 straight, baby. 16
straight, but does this make a good case, Michael, for maybe having 2 bye weeks in a season?
Definitely it makes a case. I mean, the more buys, the healthier your body is, then shoot. You talk about a longer season, never know, if you're talking about for money, how that can generate more revenue. But I definitely think another bye week would definitely do players well. It'll help the players, be able to recover just throughout the season because the NFL season is hard. It's tough. It'll give way for flexibility just in case there are crises and stuff that's out of our control. So I mean, definitely, I'm for 2 bye weeks.
Very good. And let's continue that because the Dolphins' travel schedule for the next few weeks is just crazy. And I know you're taking it one game at a time, but let's just walk through the next 3 weeks. You're in L.A., then you're in New York to play the Jets in a divisional game. Then you're in London to face New Orleans. What will be the most difficult part of a stretch like that?
Before I even answer that, no complaints this way. We trust Coach Gase. He has a great plan. And for us, again, like we said, we had a chance to, watch other teams play last week. And, we were trying to get our season started. So, for us, it doesn't matter. We're not thinking about it in that aspect. But, traveling, you just got to adjust. The time zone and stuff, you just got to adjust. But for the most part, we're not going to be worried about it, man. We just again, we taking everything into perspective. We getting a chance to actually play a game, so I feel blessed, man.
Really, really microscopic stuff. Jay Cutler didn't have a lot of time to get acclimated with this offense. Did you notice the offense doing anything differently this week? I mean, you have an extra week now to get a quarterback familiar with his receivers.
Right. I mean, I didn't see anything like different or extra that they were trying to do to get him specifically prepared. I mean, they look like they're connecting on all cylinders. They're trying to make sure they have that chemistry or whatever they're doing. So, I mean, I'm excited to watch our offense. They're excited. Everybody's ready to go. Again, like I said, man, we had to watch other teams play last week when we, like the season hadn't even started for us. So for us, we just ready to go, man. No complaining. It doesn't matter what we got to do. We just ready to go. Just find a way to get one win. That's it.
There you go. You have Michael Thomas, safety of the Miami Dolphins. Congratulations also on being named a captain, one of 5 captains this year for Miami. I know how big of an honor that is for you. And, of course, we are wishing all the best to your family in Houston, your family in Florida, and hoping you guys just get out of there safely and can get going with the season.
Man, thank you so much. It is an honor, and I appreciate y'all for having me.
Thank you so much.
I believe this is best fight for boxing for fans. Big gift for fans.
Hay peleadores difíciles de conectar, difíciles de poder hallarle el estilo. Esas son las peleas difíciles, complicadas. Esta es una pelea fuerte. Las peleas fuertes son cuando los peleadores son fuertes, son aguerridos, que van hacia adelante, no dejan de tirar golpes.
I know Canelo a long time. I know him. He knows me. Right now it's more serious.
Nos hace pensar y decir que en esta pelea se resumen 14 años de trabajo.
This is my biggest fight. I need second step. Right now it's Canelo.
Entonces es muy importante para nosotros pasar este reto que tenemos enfrente y sin duda con el trabajo lo vamos a lograr.
This is huge. It's huge for everybody. Everybody understands. If you want to watch amazing show, dramatic show, or like an action, please watch my fight.
Huge fight Saturday night. Triple G and Canelo Alvarez. George Foreman III is here, owner of the Everybody Fights boxing gym. You're going to break down this match for us. Let's start here with the odds. Triple G, a slight favorite in this fight. Are you surprised by that?
No, I'm not surprised. I think unless you study boxing, it just seems like he is the favorite because here you have 2 punchers. And typically, historically, 2 punchers. You think of Mike Tyson versus Lennox Lewis, Sonny Liston versus Cleveland Williams, and other punchers versus punchers. The bigger guy usually wins at some point because they stand and trade. The bigger guy can handle the punches a little bit better, and he punches with a little bit more power, right? The flip side of this is, strategically, if Canelo has the right strategy, they might be different. But I think definitely you figure the bigger guy has the edge in this.
Interesting. Let's talk strategy because Canelo Alvarez is trying to beat a man who has never been beaten before. If you were going to give a game plan to Alvarez, what would it be?
I would tell Alvarez, look, this guy's never been under 160. He's always been a middleweight essentially all his life. You've been a smaller fighter. You're more crafty and use your advantages as a smaller fighter. Box and counterpunch, move, use the entire ring, be fast, have patience, don't throw your power. That's what he expects you to do, and make him miss big. When the punchers miss big and they get tired, they get discouraged. And then wait, have some patience for the later rounds where you can get a little bit closer to him because he is the bigger guy. But be the smaller guy and be happy with that and open up all those advantages for yourself.
Triple G is 35 years old. Canelo, 27 years old. Is age going to play a factor in this fight at all?
10 years ago, I would have told you something different about age, but I think these are world-class athletes and they're taking care of themselves. I don't think age is going to play a big factor outside of patience.
So that's more like experience, which we know that both of them have a lot of ring experience.
Exactly.
In terms of narrative and storyline, there hasn't been a lot for American audiences to really grab onto here. Obviously, we know Canelo is hugely popular in Mexico. We know Triple G is a hero in Kazakhstan. Is there a storyline that perhaps we as the public are not seeing that you're going to be paying attention to in this fight?
I'm paying attention to the bravery of these guys. I mean, Canelo really at heart, I mean, he's really a 140-pounder, and he's moved up. He's not physically a big guy, but he's put on the weight, and he's challenging the big guys. This is kind of like David versus Goliath. And during the fight, what I'm looking for is mistakes. With punchers, you can't make a mistake because they hit you. It might be good night. So who forces the mistakes first? Who makes the mistake first? And who has the patience to maybe lose a round or two, not to make a mistake? That's the strategic narrative I'm looking for.
Move away from that. Give us your prediction for this fight. Who wins and how does it go down?
My prediction is I'm going to give it to Canelo. It reminds me of Manny Pacquiao that he always did better against bigger guys. Not guys like Floyd Mayweather, smaller guys. I think Canelo, if he sits back and he's mature and he has a good corner and says, I'm going to be the smaller guy, I'm going to be quick, and I'm going to try to win the latter round, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I think that's going to work for him. And I think Golovkin's going to show a little frustration when he starts missing. But guess what? I love a puncher. I love Golovkin. And if a fight breaks out, I give it to him.
Okay.
If a fight breaks out. If it doesn't, decision for Canelo.
Okay, very interesting. We'll be looking for the upset and beyond upset watch. George Foreman III, thank you for your expertise. Always appreciate it.
Thank you.
Time to talk some college football with our college football analyst Pete Mundo. Let's start with the big game of the week. Number 14, Louisville, hosting number 3, Clemson. Tigers defensive line looking to be tops in the nation once again. It's 11 sack performance a week ago against Auburn. Very impressive. How can this front slow down Lamar Jackson, who you were fronting on?
Well, the biggest thing, you're never going to let me live that down. The biggest thing is they have to not turn the ball over first off offensively. Last year, 5 Clemson turnovers leading to 20 Louisville points. Now for that Clemson defensive line, the biggest thing for them is just keeping them in the pocket. Last year, Jackson rushed for 160-plus yards against this Clemson team. So the 4-man front, Austin Bryant, have those guys do a really good job creating that pocket, making sure he's not just doing his Lamar Jackson thing, running all over you, and then force him to throw the ball downfield. He's gotten better at that through a couple of games, but really they've got to force him to do it and make sure he beats you with his arm and not his legs.
If Louisville is able to pull off this upset, are they now the favorites in the ACC? And then on top of that, we know your lack of love for Lamar Jackson, but would he also be the early Heisman favorite?
He would go right to the top of the list. I mean, Baker Mayfield's there right now for me, but you would have Lamar Jackson, and then there would be a big gap to Baker Mayfield after that. There's no doubt about it. He's been that good, and if he wins this game on Saturday night, it's going to shoot him right up. Now, as for Louisville, they're going to be the top team in the ACC if they win this game. Florida State's quarterback situation's in flux, and you look at their schedule, it's Florida State, NC State's kind of tricky. Outside of that, it's pretty manageable. Boston College is on the schedule, teams like that. So if they win this game Saturday night, they are by far my favorite for the ACC.
Florida, Tennessee, they'll battle in the swamp for a shot at the top of the SEC East. Last year, Florida squandered a 21-point lead and lost to the Vols for the first time since 2004. Who do you think has the edge in this rivalry?
Well, if we get 21 points combined in this game, I'll be impressed. I think that Florida has a slight edge because they're at home. Doug Nussmeier is their offensive coordinator. He is moving from the field to the booth for this game because that offense has been such a mess. And hopefully that helps them out because their offense, Antonio Callaway is obviously not going to play, and they have a lot of other issues. As Felipe Frank's going to be the quarterback, Malik Zaire. I think it's Florida in one of those 17-14 kind of games, just giving them the edge at home. Tennessee, you look at them, they were smoked in terms of total yardage, outgained by 300 yards in that win over Georgia Tech 2 weeks ago. So I'm not buying Tennessee just yet. I give Florida just the slightest edge because they're at home in that game.
A note from our producer, Max Fucci. Gators have not scored an offensive touchdown since the Obama administration. Whoa. Happier times. Let's move on. USC and Texas. USC and Texas playing each other for the first time, of course, since the Longhorns beat USC in the national championship game 2006, perhaps one of the greatest college football games of all time. And we like how USC trying to rewrite history a little bit, saying they're 4-0 against Texas. Of course, keeping out those wins that were vacated by the Trojans because of some academic or NCAA infractions, rather. Right now, USC is a 15.5-point favorite over Texas. Can Texas keep this close?
Well, this is a perfect situation for Tom Herman to put his stamp on this Texas program. He did this at Houston. Big wins last year against Louisville, against Oklahoma as well early in the season. I don't think he does it on Saturday, but if there's ever a chance for Tom Herman to get that first big win, this would be it. He'd have to do it by forcing Sam Darnold to throw a couple of interceptions, which he's done these first 2 games. 2 picks last week against Stanford, kind of gets overlooked in that big win. Holton Hill has 2 pick-sixes for Texas this season. The secondary is pretty good for Texas, so if they force Darnold into some mistakes, they use their rushing attack. The offensive line is really good for Texas. Chris Warren had 160 yards on the ground last week. If they can do that and slow this game down a little bit, they can maybe pull off the upset. I don't see it happening. I think USC wins by 3 scores, but that is the formula for Texas to try to get this win on Saturday.
On paper. Yeah. Well, we know nothing matters on paper because the NCAA vacated win. So on paper, not looking good, and on paper, perhaps maybe things getting a little bit closer between USC and Texas, but we'll have to see. Pete Mundo, thank you.
Anytime, guys.
College football, so many other things to watch this weekend. Let's take a look at it all right now. It's time for SI Now's Weekend Drive presented by Toyota. Let's go places. First, we head to the Chicagoland Speedway in Joliet, Illinois for the start of the NASCAR playoffs. For the first time in the sport's history, NASCAR will live stream an in-car camera on Twitter. Toyota driver and NASCAR points leader Martin Truex Jr. will be the driver debuting the new technology.
It'll change the viewing experience because they can watch both the TV and Twitter app at the same time and kind of compare the two, the look from inside the car and just view what we see from inside the race car throughout Monster Energy Cup Series race. To have 4 out of the 6 Toyotas in the playoffs, I think is a huge accomplishment. Our cars have been so fast all year. All of our teams have worked together really well. We have a lot to be proud of, but we're not done yet. And I think one of us is going to bring home that cup.
The live stream can be accessed via NASCAR's Twitter handle, @NASCAR. Next, we travel to Atlanta for a rematch of last year's NFC Championship game between the Packers and the Falcons. Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers threw for 311 yards last week against a stingy Seahawks secondary, but Falcons defensive coordinator Marquand Manuel may have a trick up his sleeve for his former teammate.
Having played with him, that's one of the things that he excels at, turning it into a normal football game, catching you at every moment that you're not thinking about. And sometimes guys get lax, like when you see it, guys jump offside, he hits you with the hard count, solid count, things of that nature, and understanding how to extend plays.
Manuel was promoted to defensive coordinator last season, just days after the Falcons had their collapse to the Patriots in Super Bowl 51. Lastly, we go to Louisville for a matchup between 2 ACC juggernauts, Louisville and Clemson. The Tigers have had the edge over the Cardinals the last 3 seasons, with each game being decided by less than 6 points. Louisville senior running back Malik Williams knows his team is fairly new to the ACC, but he sees this matchup as a big rivalry game.
We feel like it is a rival, and they're always having one up on us, and we just have to prove ourselves. It's a big game, college game days here. It's a great opportunity for us in this community.
Heisman Trophy winner Lamar Jackson proves to be the X factor in this game. He's already accounted for over 1,000 yards and 8 of his team's 9 touchdowns. And that's what's in store for this weekend.